everything you've just spoken to me about there, Larry, is heartfelt. I can feel the passion coming across from you. And I guess now's a really good time to just ask you, what was that? I mean, what inspired what? You have the podcast, you have the book. Did you start with the podcasts and the conversations? Did that inspire the book? How did that come about?
Actually, the podcast inspired the book.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I always made it it was one of these things. I wanted to write a book by the time I was 50 years old.
Right.
And it just, it didn't happen. So now I'm 53 and now the book's coming out.
I thought you'd done it. So I was just going to say, well done, because you've done it. Okay, there's a compliment.
Thanks. It's not out yet, but it's there. But what had happened is it was, gosh, so what are we at? We're in July 18. So it was probably like April of last year, 2017. Daryl and I were speaking at an industry, conference.
Yeah.
And we were just, we were sitting in our hotel room and we were just, drinking a cup of coffee, talking about what we were going to, do that day and so forth. And he goes, hey, we got to try ratcheting it up a little bit. What can we do to get our content out there on a more consistent basis?
Yeah.
I go, why don't we start podcasting?
Yeah.
And he goes, great idea.
Yeah.
He goes, what do we call it? And I said, Shea, in 30 seconds, I said, selling from the heart, because that's who we are. We're genuine, we're authentic. We're two real guys that consistently deliver that message that I think is lost in the world of sales, because everyone says, hey, I'm a genuine, authentic person, but really, are you? Are you value driven? Well, what are your values? And no one's really thought about it that way. Yes. So that's where we consistently delivered that message all the time is, hey, if you don't have your heart and your mind in what you do, you become lifeless, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, and I never, there was people, and I was on somebody else's podcast and I shared this with them. I said, there was people that could outsell me and outsmart me, but nobody would outcare me.
Yeah, nice way of putting it.
Yeah, and if you break that down, is I can't do business with everybody, right?
Yeah.
There's no way on the face of this whole big planet that a salesperson wins every single deal they're on. So let's just face that fact, right? You want to win more than you lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I always say, you know what? If you go into that relationship being genuine, being authentic, you're there to help them, you're there to help serve them, you're putting them on the business, table, you're placing them up on a pedestal, you'll be amazed at what they start sharing with you. Because I always said, salespeople already have a black eye to begin with. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate, but that's just, I'm calling it like it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because for every great sales professional, there's 10 that are horrible. They give the industry and the profession a black eye.
Yeah.
So if you already know that going in, then do something about it. And where I learned this, and this is where that whole selling from the heart came from a long time ago, is, I came out of the office technology sector, which is just, it's a great sales channel to be in, but it's extremely laggard in nature, slow to adopt, right? Slow to adopt to new things. Mm-hmm. And it's just, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I would always ask people, and this goes back like 25, 26 years ago, what do you like about sales reps in our industry? And what do you don't like about sales reps in this industry?
Right.
And furthermore, what would you change about sales reps in our industry? And I just started taking notes.
Yeah.
And that's how I formulated how I went to market, was based on asking executive decision makers what they thought of salespeople, what they like, what they didn't like.
Yeah.
And I go, it's just not that hard. I go, you just you have to place yourself in a vulnerable position and just ask. And there's nothing wrong with it. Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, more often than not, they were like going, wow, this is kind of cool.
Yeah. Because it's different.
Because this is different and no one's ever asked. So that's where I said, if you can't open the most important part of the sales process correctly, then what happens? That's where you start using stupid sales tricks and all the tactics and all the BS that happens and all the closing BS that happens.
Yeah.
And it is important. You have to learn how to overcome objections. You got to learn how to present well. I understand and I get all of that, and I'm not dodging it and I'm not disrespecting it. But if you can't open the very beginning of a relationship the correct way,
yeah,
then what happens? You know, and I liken it to dating, right?
yes,
You're not going to be a complete a-hole if you want to impress somebody because you want to go out on a date with them.
that's right, exactly.
So what difference is it whether you're a sales professional or just a normal average person looking to go out on a date with somebody? That's why I always say, you know, when you're out prospecting, it's like business dating. If we look at it, right? If we look at it that way, is you're prospecting for new opportunities.
Yeah.
So you best well be on your best behavior. And that's kind of where that whole selling from the heart mentality. And that's what stemmed from, you know, why I decided to write the book, besides Daryl kept me hostage in a car for 3.5 days driving halfway across the United States. But, you know, he wanted me to write a book on social.
Sure.
And he goes, you know, you've done a really unique way of delivering, you know, authenticity and being yourself, leveraging the power of social. Why don't you write that book? And I said, no, because I think it's going to get watered down in all the other social selling fodder that's out there. Because I think there's just way too much of it.
Yes.
I don't even want to go there because you're going to piss me off.
But yeah.
but I said, you know, I'm going to write a book that talks about selling from the heart and how your authentic self sells you. Yeah. And it's kind of just, it's bringing me to life in the book.
Yes.
That if you can't align yourself to who you are, if you don't know who you are, it's hard to go to market.
It's been great talking to you.
Oh, it's awesome.
So I'm just going to tell everybody again. So you have a sales podcast, Selling from the Heart.
They can find our podcast right on iTunes and Google and Stitcher and all that. But if they go to sellingfromtheheart.net.
Right. Yeah.
You can see the podcast. You can sign up for release information on my book.
Yes.
In a few weeks, the sellingfromtheheart.net website is getting a full makeover. It's going to have my book. There's going to be videos. You're going to be able to download the first 3 chapters of my book. Yeah. And so forth. There'll be a lot of resources. The sales manifesto will be on there. So so you can listen to the podcast and you can find my upcoming book on sellingfromtheheart.net. I mean, obviously people can connect with me on LinkedIn. So, you know, as well as Larry Levine 1992 is my LinkedIn address. And I love hanging out on those 2 platforms, but I also do a lot of work on Instagram and Twitter. And those are the 3 social platforms I play on. So.
Okay. So Larry Levine, thank you so much for joining me today. I am going to go get your book, Selling from the Heart, which will be out when?
Hopefully, I'm crossing fingers. Yeah. Next month.
Okay, so next month the book will be out. So guys, go get the book. It's really good. It's so, if you like the stuff that you see when you watch me, Larry and I are very much aligned, and this is, you know, it's got some great messages in there. Read Larry's book, then you can read mine later on. We both like to say we're salespeople, so yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today, and let's do another one soon.
Absolutely.